Rishi Sunak is a premier in media propaganda, a PIMP. A pimp, pimping out Home Office secretaries, HOS, in exchange for far-right votes. Propagandists, like most pathological liars, invariably come to believe their own lies and end up driving themselves insane by repeatedly attempting to actualize their propaganda. Rishi is a pimp because he is a pathological liar who has come to believe the Tory propaganda that the Rwanda policy can be legally implemented. To support this lie, he is insanely making a third attempt to crown this impotent policy, which two HOS have so far failed to do, after almost 2 years. Despite the fact that this blustering propaganda policy, which was originally announced by Boris Johnson in April 2022, was deflated by the Supreme Court, ruling it unlawful last month, Sunak is now pimping out a third HO to resurrect it. He is doing this in advance of the next general election, even though there is, or can be, nothing in the new Rwanda Treaty that would fundamentally change the basis for the Supreme Court ruling that there were substantial grounds for believing that asylum seekers sent to Rwanda would face a real risk of ill treatment as a result of being returned to their country of origin. The emergency legislation that Sunak is proposing to breathe life into this dead horse will struggle to become law, while opening his government to cleverly constructed opposition and ridicule of Monty Python proportions. It is astonishing that Sunak, for example, does not see the insanity and pitfalls of using UK government legislation to attempt to whitewash an African government with a history of political and media repression that turned a democracy into a one-party state. Furthermore, there is no country in the world that is presently processing asylum seekers through third-party countries. Some, like Australia, have tried and failed, while others, like Denmark, who in 2021 introduced laws along the lines proposed by Sunak, have yet to send any asylum seekers to the designated third-party state, which, as some of you might have guessed, is Rwanda. One can't help but wonder whether the UK government ever considered what will happen when the people of Rwanda change the leader who came to power by force in 1994. While the electoral benefits of a bait-and-switch may be obvious to Sunak, there are some disadvantages that may yet be his undoing. The biggest is, of course, that the most vociferous section of the electorate that the policy most appeals to is aligned with Suella Braverman, the hoe that he sacked for being too extreme. Ironically, Suella is right that there is no way of implementing the policy without going outside of national and international law. So, unless Sunak is prepared to follow in Kagame's footsteps and turn the UK into a one-party state, with the state being above the law, then there's no chance of implementing the Rwanda policy. If Sunak had been a more accomplished politician, like Boris, he would simply have taken this opportunity to kick the ball into the long grass, but instead, he has opted to blow the whistle for the commencement of the game, and promptly served himself up to Suella and fate. Treaty lasted 145 days after signing the Rwanda Treaty, while Suella lasted 240 days. It remains to be seen how many days James will last for, before the chickens queuing round the block start coming home to roost for Rishi and his government.
My name is Ansoy from the BBC. I have a quick question for President Kagame. As chair of the Commonwealth, I wonder what your priority will be, especially in terms of upholding the values of democracy and human rights, given that there's been a lot of scrutiny on your country and the record of your government, and critics have been pointing out the number of opposition leaders and journalists who are in prison. I wonder what your leadership of this organization is going to look like in the face of that.
Right. I want to assure you, there is nobody in the BBC or anywhere else thereabout who would be holding values better than we do here in Rwanda. Except if we just want to cover up the mistakes of the same people who want to define these values for us.